Hi, I'm John DeVore. Welcome back to the DeVore Fidelity YouTube channel. Today's going to be another live album video, and it's going to be one by Miles Davis. It's a little bit of an odd choice. There are a lot of live Miles Davis recordings to choose from, and most of them actually seem to be recordings that were not released anywhere near the time that they were recorded in. And this is one of those. This came out in the 80s, mid-80s, 81, 82, 82 maybe? But it was recorded in 65. There's a few things that make this one interesting to me. First, this is Miles's later quintet. So this is after the supergroup that had Coltrane in it and McCoy Tyner. This is his group with Wayne Shorter on sax, Herbie Hancock at this point on the piano, Ron Carter on bass, and Tony Williams on drums. Tony Williams obviously carrying over from some previous groups of Miles's. When this was recorded, this group had already put out a couple of records, Nefertiti, ESP, and it was clear in those records the new direction that Miles was heading in. This was really nothing like his 50s group, which obviously most famously put out Kinda Blue. This group was really pushing forward while Miles was exploring a really different way of expressing himself. What makes this record kind of interesting, though, is that even though this quintet had put out a couple of records with their clear path defined, for this live recording, it goes back to old school standards. So he's not doing any of his new stuff. He's talking about Green Dolphin Street, he's talking about So What, Roundabout Midnight, Stella by Starlight, All Blues. He's doing the songs that his previous groups made famous and his legendary performances from the late 40s and all through the 50s. But what this group brings to these songs is a scalpel and a bomb. They dissect these songs, they turn them inside out, they blow them up, and then they read the music on the walls of the operating room. It's hilarious. There's a lot of stories behind this record, among which Miles apparently he tried to cancel the date. He didn't want to do it. He had been a bit of a recluse. He was back on drugs, so he was having a hard time. But I think Columbia Records got him in by essentially telling them that he would have to pay for the missed gig out of his own pocket. The other interesting story about this is that his bandmates, so Wayne Shorter, Ron Carter, Herbie Hancock, and Tony Williams, the story goes that on their way to the gig, looking at the set list with all these old standards, they made a deal with each other that they wouldn't play any of the standards in an expected way. They would push the boundaries, they would play everything upside down, they would play loud when they were supposed to play soft, and it shows. These are really weird and crazy versions of these songs. I mean, on Green Dolphin Street is one of my favorite songs, and this is a killer version. Their version of Roundabout Midnight on this is also, they're killer, but they're completely unlike anything that anyone had done at this point. So I get a kick out of it because it's these classic standard songs done in this really bizarre, blown up style, a style that becomes sort of a hybrid between the beyond modality that Miles was going towards in the mid-60s, crossed over with the classic, exquisite, cool jazz that he had mastered already in the previous decade. So it's a great record. There were a couple of versions of this. This was sort of the first one that came out, and this is a double album. There have been since then, in the 90s, there was a big CD box set that had tons more music, maybe 3 times or 4 times this amount. And apparently it's all of the sessions. I haven't heard that, but it's the kind of thing I would keep an eye open for. And I know that Mosaic made one of their awesome box sets of these sessions, which is probably incredible, but I'm sure is hundreds of dollars. I've had this album for a very long time, early 90s maybe, something like that. It actually goes back a pretty far way into my Miles Davis education. And so these versions, while they're they're kind of kooky, are sort of almost the standards in my mind. So it has a warm place in my heart. Thanks very much for watching. I hope to see you soon at the next video.